Hi, I'm Eric Bogatin with BeTheSignal.com, reporting for Real Time with IPC. And joining me today are Duane Mahnke from Mahnke Consulting and David Thorpe from the IPC. And Duane, you are the chairman of one of the standards committees, the UL certification for Flex. Can you tell me a little bit about what your committee does?
Yes, our committee has been working with the UL group for about 11, 12 years now. We started the group in 1997 at the request of IPC. At that point in time, there were no UL standards specifically for flex materials, only for PWB rigid materials. And so that, of course, there were a lot of issues for us that were in the flex side of the world.
And when you think of UL, you think of kind of like fire resistance kind of thing. What are some of the examples of the certification test that is required for UL?
Well, flame retardancy and safety is their main thing, like you said. So that's the number one thing. You have to have some type of flame recognition for your materials or your parts that you're building. And so typically we have a material standard and then a fabricator standard for the actual printed circuit board. Now the other things are for flex materials and flex boards. We have flexibility tests, low temperature flex, abrasion tests, electrical tests, breakdown tests, and then there's characterization tests as well that are tested. They're not pass-fail criteria, but if you pass at a certain level, that allows you to enter certain markets without additional testing.
And so your standards group deals with what are the tests going to be, what are the conditions for success, and then working with UL to make sure it becomes, following these tests, are UL certified?
In some regard, yes. UL is an industry requirement for many of the parts that are built to go into electronics applications. And basically UL stands for Underwriters Laboratories. People want to have a stamp on there so that they feel that the item is safe. And basically insurance companies then will insure the items, or the company that's building that. And so it is a stamp of approval of safety. And they need to themselves feel that the item is safe. Now UL doesn't always understand our industry and what we make and how to test those things. And that's where we come in. It's kind of we show them what it is we make and how we make them and how we test them, and then they incorporate some of that into their testing. And then also we don't always understand how they talk or how what they need. And so it's been a cross kind of knowledge type of thing. We're learning from them and they're learning from us. So it's
so you work very closely with
very
UL.
Close with them. So the outcome of this has been 2 standards are written. And both are specifically for flex materials. There's UL standard 746F, and the F basically stands for flex. And that's for the flex materials, polyamide films, polyester films, the very base materials, and then the converted materials, cover films, laminates, very thin dielectric type materials. And then what we call the fabricator's standard, 796F. So, and it's really rigid flex type of boards. And I say rigid, those that are built up multi-layer, even though they're made with thin dielectrics, they'll be multi-layer. And they may not be flexible at that point, but they're made with thin dielectric materials. So at one point they're still flexible. And so that's the UL 796F standard. And both of those were written with the help of the IPC task group.
And are there IPC standards that correspond to those UL standards?
They're not necessarily corresponding, but they're called out in the IPC 4202, which is the base material for the films for the flex. We'll call out like UL 746B. That's the standard that's used for plastics for relative thermal index, where they get their rating for electrical and mechanical performance. That's called out in that standard. And then for the 4203 and 4204, which would be the cover lay and bonding materials, and then laminates, then we want to have something also to like an MOT, maximum operating temperature, which is another type of thermal index. Those companies who have a product that has a UL recognition, we would use their UL recognition and call out a UL standard.
So closely linked with the UL
right.
standard. Now you guys have been working in this committee for more than 10 years, you say. In the last years, what's the new thing that's coming along that you guys have to incorporate into the new standards?
Well, in the past, things like solder masks were only tested for flammability and mainly used on rigid boards. Today, a similar type of material is called cover coat. It's put on, and it's not just used for protect for soldering. It's a permanent mask and used in place of a film. So now you can also build things much smaller, these high density interconnects. And it's a dielectric material and considered flexible. UL doesn't understand the use of those materials, so those would be considered a flexible material and dielectric. So we're working with UL on how to test those and incorporate those into the UL standard.
And if someone wanted more information about where to go, where's a good place to get more information about the standards committee that you're chairman of?
Yeah, our standards committee meets monthly, telephone conference, and we work very closely with the PD, the primary designated engineer with UL, who's responsible for the standard. And then we meet at both of the main meetings that we have with the IPC at the Expo.
And information about your meetings is on the IPC website?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And it's like every other committee, it's a voluntary thing. We get together and we help UL, and I think it's been a real good relationship between us and UL. And any of the fabricators and material suppliers, it's also a learning experience for them on how to deal with UL to get their products certified with UL.
Great. And Dave, what's your role in the organization?
Well, primarily I'm the Vice President of the Standards for IPC, and we always look forward to working together in a cooperative manner, and UL is one of those organizations that kind of has a different sense of purpose. They're primarily testing and standards for public safety. And we're happy to engage subject matter experts like Duane here, who's a plethora of knowledge, and taking some of the IPC's core competencies and subject matter expertise in flex circuits, and sharing that makes for not only a stronger UL standard, but it makes for a stronger industry collaborative effort. And sometimes you just have to take down the walls that have been created over the past and work together to have the sum of the parts be greater.
You help facilitate the relationships.
Absolutely.
And build the industry relations.
Absolutely.
Great. Well, that's all the time we have for today. I've been joined by Dave Thorpe from IPC and Duane Mahnke from Mahnke Consulting, and this is Eric Bogatin from BeTheSignal.com.